the first vaccine. A 90-year-old woman is the first in Britain to receive the shot against COVID-19. White House summit. President Donald Trump presents the plan to distribute the vaccine in the United States. Close to a deal. Lawmakers could agree on funding both COVID relief and the government to avoid a shutdown. And a surprise prayer. Pope Francis lays a wreath to the Virgin Mother at the Spanish Steps in Rome. On EWTN News Nightly for this Feast of the Immaculate Conception, December 8th, 2020. Good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Tasy. Britain becomes the first Western country to administer vaccinations against the coronavirus. Meanwhile, U.S. regulators evaluate Pfizer's vaccine and confirm that it offers strong protection against the virus. Correspondent Mark Irons reports. Mark?
Tracy, tonight the fight against the pandemic reaches a turning point even as the U.S. awaits emergency approval of the Pfizer vaccine. A mass inoculation effort is underway in the U.K.
It's less than a year since the first case of coronavirus was diagnosed, and yet here we are in the NHS able to begin administering life-saving vaccine to vulnerable patients. So today's a chance to say a huge thank you.
Public health officials are calling it V-Day, and the head of the UK's National Health Services said the vaccination campaign is the country's biggest immunization program in history. The UK's Margaret Keenan is the first person in the world to receive the Pfizer vaccine.
I would say go for it. Go for it because it's free and it's the best thing that's ever happened at the moment. So please go for it. That's all I say, you know.
The 90-year-old grandmother is the first recipient in the countrywide effort to administer vaccine shots. The Pfizer inoculation is one of the least ethically problematic vaccines since it was not produced using aborted fetal cell lines. And again, as for the U.S., the Pfizer vaccine is nearing emergency approval by the FDA, but it has cleared a major hurdle. According to an FDA review, it offers strong protection after the first dose and works well regardless of a patient's age, race, or weight. Tracy?
Correspondent Mark Irons reporting for us tonight. Thank you so much, Mark. And for more on the vaccine front, here in the United States, President Donald Trump held an Operation Warp Speed summit today. The president also announced an executive order that he says will put America first. Meanwhile, in Delaware, presumptive President-elect Joe Biden lays out his plan to beat the coronavirus. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
Tracy, President Donald Trump told Americans today the vaccine, which has been produced in record time, is coming very soon and that a return to normal is within reach.
We're very hopeful that the FDA will authorize the Pfizer vaccine within days. We've got to get it moving. And Moderna vaccine almost immediately thereafter. In just a few minutes, I'll sign an executive order to ensure that the United States government prioritizes the getting out of the vaccine to American citizens before sending it to other nations.
Meanwhile, at the same time President Trump's vaccine summit was taking place, presumptive President-elect Joe Biden, he offered a vigorous defense of the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare, and introduced his health team picks while laying out the strategy to defeat the pandemic.
This team will help get at the last 100 million COVID-19 vaccine, at least 100 million COVID vaccine shots into the arms of the American people in the first 100 days. 100 million shots in the first 100 days.
Now, before he spoke today, Joe Biden also was in Wilmington, Delaware, attending Mass, the Solemnity of the Immaculate Conception. Now, some grim numbers to share with you tonight. More than 2,200 Americans every day are dying due to coronavirus. Overall, more than 280,000 Americans have died. And President Donald Trump also said today, he emphasized that he would institute the Defense Production Act if that's what it takes to really get the vaccine process up to speed and moving along. Tracy?
Okay, thank you so much, Owen. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reporting tonight. And tonight, a new COVID relief bill is still in the works on Capitol Hill. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the Senate should hold off on controversial elements and pass a small bill now that both parties can agree on. For restaurant workers, that aid cannot come soon enough. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales reports. Eric?
That's right, Tracy. You know, both parties agree that some sort of COVID relief needs to happen fast and needs to happen now before the holiday break, and that's why negotiations continue around the clock at this hour. Meanwhile, a group of restaurant owners and workers gathered in the front lawn of the Capitol to send a strong message to lawmakers that COVID relief needs to happen quickly.
I'd invite them to come, sit together in my place and actually have a meal together.
Restaurant owner Konstantin Savaropoulos says lawmakers need to come to the table and agree on the details of a bill with more COVID relief money.
So we as businesses need relief, but we also want to get relief to our employees because it's not as if we can, hire people back. There's no business.
He tells me he had more than 340 employees working for him last March. Now he's down to just 70. He joined other restaurant owners and workers on the lawn in the front of the U.S. Capitol Monday afternoon.
Owners of restaurants wrote names on these plates for Tommy, for Becca, for Chris, for Marty. They want lawmakers to know that these are real people who are out of a job, who need help to survive this pandemic.
Brothers Alex and Eric Heidenberger are Catholic, who along with their father run the D.C. restaurant group. They say the U.S. restaurant industry is at risk if Congress doesn't pass more aid now.
In this country, our industry is too large to fail. We need the support now, or you're literally going to change the landscape of the United States of America.
Now in December, when restaurants would normally be booked solid for holiday parties, many are boarded up.
1 in 3 small businesses said they wouldn't be able to survive the next 3 months without federal relief.
We need some help, and if one needs to turn to faith, that's a great source of help and guidance. But at the end of the day, we're going to need some financial help as well.
All the restaurant owners I spoke with say what they would really like are grants, not necessarily loans. They say that their debt is already too great. They say that they just need a little help from the government in order to last until the spring. Tracy?
Correspondent Eric Rosales reporting from Capitol Hill tonight. Thank you so much, Eric. China is firing back at the U.S. for slapping sanctions on Chinese officials who passed Hong Kong's national security law.
这充分暴露了美方干涉中国内政。
A spokeswoman for China's foreign ministry condemned the sanctions and warns the U.S. to stop interfering in China's affairs. The U.S. sanctioned China yesterday for cracking down on Hong Kong. Last month, China disqualified some lawmakers in Hong Kong. The Vatican press office says Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican's Secretary of State, is in the hospital tonight. He will undergo a scheduled surgery and is expected to be discharged in the coming days and will gradually resume his work. Pope Francis made a surprise visit to the statue of the Immaculate Conception at the Spanish Steps this morning in Rome on the feast of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Holy Father brought a bouquet of white roses to Our Lady in the rain. He asked the Madonna in prayer to watch over the people of Rome and the world, especially those afflicted by illness and discouragement. He then went to the Basilica of St. Mary Major to celebrate a private mass at the crypt of the Nativity. Pope Francis says Our Lady encourages us on the path of conversion.
La preghiera, la penitenza, il cuore aperto alla grazia.
Greeting pilgrims in St. Peter's Square on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, the Holy Father said, "Don't take advantage of God's patience. There is no time like the present to seize the day, pray, ask for forgiveness, and open your hearts to God's grace." And Pope Francis announced that this year will be dedicated to St. Joseph. As a model of true fatherhood, the Holy Father hopes the saint's example will be a support and guide in these difficult times. Special indulgences will be granted throughout the year and will conclude on December 8th, 2021. Coming up, reaction to a bill expanding access to abortion in New Jersey. Pro-life advocates are speaking out against proposed legislation in New Jersey that, if passed, would expand access to abortion and require most private insurers to cover abortion and birth control with no out-of-pocket expenses. Joining me now on Skype to talk more about what's being called the, quote, Reproductive Freedom Act is Marie Tasy, Executive Director of New Jersey Right to Life. Marie, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on. I know this legislation has the support of Democrat Governor Phil Murphy, who's also a Catholic. What are some of the items being proposed in this bill? What can you tell us?
Well, actually, the bill should be called the Freedom to Kill Act because that really is more accurate of a description than the Reproductive Freedom Act. This bill is a very extreme bill. It dehumanizes babies in the womb and allows them to be killed for the entire 9 months of pregnancy. It endangers women's lives. It restrains the right of future legislatures to have a say on one of the most important human rights issues of our time. It will remove the Conscience Clause protection that has been in effect in the state since 1974. It also, if you can believe it, it is so extreme that it allows a baby that is a newborn, that is actually born, to be left abandoned or for a deliberate act to be taken where the child's life is ended, and there would be no prosecution at all for the mother. It's just unbelievably extreme. It also allows people who are not residents of the state to come into the state to have abortions, minors without parental consent. We're really concerned about the whole sex trafficking aspect of this bill. It will allow people from outside our borders to come in and to bring in young girls to have abortions and cover up their dirty little crime. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And it will all be paid for by New Jersey taxpayers.
Yeah, very concerning indeed. I want to get your response to one of the lines in the act as it was originally introduced back in October that reads, quote, a fertilized egg, embryo, or fetus shall not have independent rights under the laws of this state. Now, as someone who has been part of the pro-life movement for decades now, what do you make of that statement, and what type of message do you think it sends?
I think it's a terrible message. It completely dehumanizes the baby in the womb. It completely ignores the scientific advances that we have, in this country now since Roe versus Wade. I mean, clearly we can see a baby on ultrasound, which provides a window into the womb. We can see the baby's heart beating before a woman even knows she's pregnant. We know that doctors perform surgeries on babies in the womb and give the babies anesthesia as well as the mother. This bill completely ignores the scientific advances that we have had in this country. And, we always hear about the other side talking about that they won't go back. But really, this bill does exactly that. It brings them back to 1973 and the Roe versus Wade decision, which was so antiquated and built on so many lies and flaws. It's just unbelievable. It's just incredible. And even the arguments that, you hear during Governor Murphy's press conference with his wife and the legislators, I mean, it's the same old rhetoric that we heard 50 years ago. And it's just incredible. It really is. It's shameful as well.
Yeah, I want to talk about also the timing of this bill, Marie. In your opinion, what do you think is behind it?
Well, Governor Murphy announced this bill, announced the introduction of this bill the day after he announced he was running for re-election. So clearly he's trying to appease his pro-abortion supporters. But they're claiming that they're concerned that because of the recent addition of Justice Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court, that Roe versus Wade could be overturned. And that's what they're claiming that their concerns are. But New Jersey already has had some of the most permissive abortion laws in the nation. This will make it even, obviously even worse. I mean, right now, the laws say that a licensed physician has to perform abortions in New Jersey, has to have hospital admitting privileges. After a certain period of gestation, abortions have to be done in a licensed hospital. This bill will completely wipe all that out. It invalidates all existing laws that interfere with the right, that are inconsistent with this act. So how in the world is this making, abortion more safe for women? It's allowing non-physicians to do abortions, midwives, nurse practitioners. It's just incredible. And it wouldn't require that abortions have to be done in a licensed ambulatory care facility either. And abortions can be performed the entire 9 months of pregnancy as well, in the state of New Jersey. And it's unbelievable. It's just incredible. Again, we have a New Jersey safe haven law. We were one of the first states to pass such a law. I helped write the law. And it saved 77 babies so far. this law, if enacted, will completely negate the effectiveness of the safe haven law because it will no longer be a fear of prosecution. And there's no, some women who are having their babies who would obviously not want to be prosecuted or face jail time would consider placing their child in a safe environment, which the safe haven law does. And under this act, it doesn't matter what happens to this baby, the mother can't be prosecuted. It's just incredible. And we're talking about born human beings. We're talking about someone who is actually born in this country and should be entitled to the full protection of the law under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution.
Well, Marie, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for what you do. Marie Tasy, Executive Director of New Jersey Right to Life. Thanks again, Marie.
Thank you.
Well, Massachusetts state lawmakers are sending an annual budget to the governor, but it has an amendment that expands abortions. Under the proposal, girls under the age of 18 would not need parents' consent, and girls under 16 would only need a judge to sign off on an abortion. And in Ohio, the General Assembly has passed a bill that requires abortion clinics to pay for cremation or burial of aborted babies. Women seeking abortions will have to choose if they want their aborted babies to be cremated or buried. Now, if the woman opts not to choose, the abortion facility will have to make the choice. The Supreme Court is told in an amicus brief that the Kentucky order closing schools amounts to religious discrimination. The Danville Christian Academy sued Governor Andy Beshear for the closures. Several religious rights groups have filed briefs with the Supreme Court, including 38 U.S. senators, the Becket Fund, and the Alliance Defending Freedom. And you can read more about the briefs at our sister publication, CatholicNewsAgency.com. Catholic families and schools in the Diocese of Lansing, Michigan, have filed a lawsuit challenging the state's order to close high schools for another 12 days with no date for reopening. The president of Father Gabriel Richard High School says the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and other national experts have indicated over and over that schools are safe places, largely because they're closely regulated and supervised environments. Up next, a look at EWTN's new TV channel, which launches in Spain today. On this feast day, we take note of this year's Christmas stamp from the U.S. Postal Service, which highlights a painting of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Joining me now on Skype is Jem Sullivan, author of The Beauty of Faith. Jem, welcome back. Always so good to see you again. Tell us about the Madonna and Child Christmas stamps.
Sure, Tracy. It's common now to send and receive Christmas greetings through electronic or digital means. But at some point during Advent, we might also do the old-fashioned thing and send a Christmas card in the mail. And chances are we will use a Madonna and Child Christmas stamp. Now, every 2 years, the U.S. Postal Service issues a Christmas stamp with a masterpiece of sacred art showing the Blessed Virgin Mary and the child Jesus. This year, the Madonna and Child Christmas stamp is an exquisite painting of Our Lady of Guapolo from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. And as we see this beautiful image on our Christmas mail, we are reminded of the Church's Advent longing for the birth of Jesus that we'll celebrate at Christmas.
Jem, tell us what we are seeing on the 2020 Christmas stamp.
Sure, Tracy. This year's Christmas stamp is a 16th century painting of a sculpture of Mary and the baby Jesus. Both of them are dressed in golden robes, richly decorated with precious stones and floral patterns. Mary's serene, calm face is framed by an ornate veil with a jeweled trim. And in her right hand, Mary holds a scepter wrapped in red roses and leaves. And in her left arm, Mary holds her son, Jesus, whom she looks at with eyes of faith and a mother's love. Now notice the jeweled crown on the infant Jesus, whose right hand is raised in blessing as he looks up tenderly at his mother. This sculpture is Our Lady of Guapolo, that originated as a copy of the Spanish Virgin of Guadalupe. The image was completed in 1584 by an anonymous painter in Cusco, Peru, who commissioned this painting, a group of merchants commissioned this painting in Quito, Ecuador, where there's a Franciscan shrine to Our Lady of Guapulo. And this image was the center of the people's devotion as they sought Mary's intercession, her protection, and help. In the 17th century, painted images of sculptures like this one were carried throughout the Andes to express the people's devotion to Mary and to Jesus.
And Jem, what is the takeaway as we celebrate the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception?
God preserved Mary from the stain of original sin from the moment of her conception, so she could bear Jesus into the world. And so the Church honors Mary as the Mother of God, the Mother of the Church, and our Mother in faith. No other person was as close to Jesus during his earthly life as his mother Mary. So she's in a unique position to show us how to be a disciple of her son Jesus. As this Madonna and Child Christmas stamp moves around the country on our postal mail this year, the image reminds us of the closeness of Jesus to his mother Mary. And the beauty of this painting invites us to continue our Advent contemplation of Jesus through the eyes of his mother, the Blessed and Immaculate Virgin Mary.
Well, Jem, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. We really appreciate it. Jem Sullivan, author of The Beauty of Faith. Thank you again, Jem.
Thank you, Tracy.
And finally tonight, EWTN Spain hosts its launch today, broadcasting on the country's largest digital platforms. The 4-hour programming will have the opportunity to reach 7 million Spanish homes, and the remainder of the hours will be shown on social media. The contents will include Vatican events as well as special shows targeted towards Spanish Catholics. Joining us now from Rome is Father Diego Saez Martin, co-founder and advisor of EWTN Spain. Father Diego is from Madrid, Spain. Father, thank you so much for your time today. What has been the reaction of Spanish Catholics from this new Catholic programming?
Today we are receiving many messages from different people that watch the first programs of EWTN Spain. And it is a big surprise to see the reaction of the people. They were expecting something like this. And we are sending their encouragement to us, saying, go ahead, this is what we were needing right now in Spain. So we are very, very, very happy that EWTN Spain was born specifically today, the day of the Immaculate Conception of Mary. That is a very big feast for us in Spain.
Yeah, what a blessing. What are some of the current challenges the Catholic Church faces in Spain right now?
There are many different social problems, some of them, of course, connected directly with the situation of the COVID. But in general terms, we were needing a channel like EWTN Spain, not because of this specific situation we are facing now. I mean that all of us, we are experiencing the need of, for instance, following the Holy Mass through the TV, because many churches were closed because of the sanitary situation. But in general terms, we were experiencing the need of EWTN Spain for many decades because there was a vacuum in the media in Spain about religion and faith. Nobody took seriously the task of presenting Jesus Christ in media. And we can make present the message of salvation through the TV and through the internet, social media, if we take this task seriously. And this is our purpose, to make present Jesus Christ in every home.
Father, what will your role specifically be in the mission?
And my mission among all of them is first to provide my experience as director of EWTN Ukraine. I was the director for 4 years in Ukraine of EWTN. So providing assessment, but also being counselor, spiritual counselor for all the team, and also to giving my advice as priest of the Holy Church, and making sure that everything we do in EWTN Spain is according to our faith and the doctrine, the teaching of the Church.
Yeah, a joyous day indeed. Father, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Many blessings for you.
And we thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Tasy. Good night and God bless.